Okay, first and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakakudash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Today, I want to, cover, because I was reading, and it made me think that you really have to be careful and watch what you do around others. And by others, I'm mainly speaking of, those in this truth, and around those of lower, those who are less built up than you are. And so let's get 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 8. But meat commendeth us not to the Most High, for neither if we eat are we the better, neither if we eat not are we the worse. But take heed, lest by any means this liberty of yours become a stumbling block to them that are weak. For if any man see thee which has knowledge sit at meat in the idol's temple, right? Shall not, and to be at meat means to, to eat or to make feast there. Let's just look into it real quick. Sit at meat, right? To have lain down, i.e. to lay prostrate, of the sick, of those at meals, to recline, sit at meat. At meat. Sit with the king at meat. Let's check here. It's caused to eat, devour, burn up, feed. Alright, so based on the context, we can conclude that to be at meat, as it's saying, knowledge sit at meat in the idol's temple, shall not the conscience of him which is weak be emboldened to eat those things which are offered to idols? And through thy knowledge shall the weak brother perish, for whom Yahushai died? But when ye sin so against the brethren, and wound their weak conscience, ye sin against Yahushai. Wherefore, if meat make my brother to offend, I will eat no flesh while the world standeth, lest I make my brother to offend. Right? So you have to, be careful of what you do around others, because like you're saying, if you of someone of higher faith who are rooted and grounded in this truth, you know that what you serve Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, and so you being in an idol's temple and you're eating, you know that this means nothing to you. You're just eating. But if someone was of a lower faith was to see that and see you in this idol's temple eating, they would think, okay, is this okay to be doing? And then they would be eating in the idol's temple. What? Shall not the conscience of him which is weak be emboldened to eat those things which are offered to idols? Right? And that's what would happen, because they see you doing it, not really knowing, what's really going on. And this reminds me of, because I went through this myself. My older brother, the Lord put the Spirit on him to bring me into this truth. So as I was, still getting my act together, say on a Sabbath day, right? There was one time I was outside, and then he told me like, oh, you're really not supposed to be out here, because I was like sitting on the porch or something. He's like, yeah, you're not supposed to be out here right now. It's a Sabbath. I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. But then say the next week a Sabbath rolls around and I see him outside, doing whatever, and that would have me conflicted, because I'm thinking, I thought we weren't supposed to be outside on the Sabbath. What's going on? But now I know, the water Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, me being continued in this faith and growing, as scriptures say, with all thy wisdom and get understanding. We can grab that Here, Proverbs 4:7, right? Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding, right? As I continued in this faith, I grew to understand, why it was even on the Sabbath day he was doing what it was that he was doing. It's like, even if you can't explain it, because not everything can be explained carnally with words. Sometimes you just have to understand through the spirit, and that's what happened. So I understand now why it was he was doing those things. But before, as someone lesser in faith, lower in this truth, because I was just coming into it, I didn't understand at the time, which could have caused me to be like, oh, it's nothing wrong to be going outside and doing my regular things on the Sabbath. No, that's wrong. But I understand that now, and that's what Paul is pretty much saying. That's why you have to watch what you do around others, who are lower in this truth than you, not lower in rank, but less built up. But that also goes into like, being over righteous. You don't want to be over righteous, because what? That'll ruin you. Because trying to keep the laws perfectly and everything, you will bug yourself out. And that's why what? Deliverance isn't of the law anymore. It's through faith. But trying to be over righteous you'll destroy yourself, trying to be over righteous. And we can get that as well. No, not here. Ecclesiastes chapter 7 verse 16. Be not righteous over much, either make thyself over wise. Why shouldest thou destroy thyself? Right? Because trying to be over righteous, ultimately you're trying to become perfect, which is impossible in this flesh. Only Yahweh Shai was able to conquer this flesh. And that's why we depend upon that sacrifice, of Yahweh Shai upon the cross. Because we know that we aren't going to be able to be perfect in this flesh. Not yet, at least. It's not until the Lord, comes back, and Lord willing, we be of that number and receive those new bodies. But that's really the point I want to make. Just to be careful and watch what you do around, those with weaker spirit. So with that being said, once more I would like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahushai, Ba'asham, Ruach HaKodesh, and double honors to the apostles and elders, the great millstone, and shalom to the elect.